All right, welcome back to the Backcountry Rookies podcast. Round 3, we'll call it. So I'm on today with Mike Herne. This is going to be a really cool show. We're talking about one of my favorite pieces of equipment. I don't know why it's one of my favorites, but we're going to talk about bino harnesses, and it's something that I've gone through many of them trying to find just the right one. Really quick, we're doing round 3. Mike and I jumped on earlier. We had like an hour-long BS session. 45 minutes, something like that. And then we tried to start recording and I forgot to hit the record button. So we were on 5 minutes, something like that, Mike, rolling along, and then realized we were not recording. So Mike Herne, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on, talking about bino harness reviews. Tell me about this review, how you got it all started. Tell me about yourself, and then we'll roll into the harnesses themselves.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm a writer for Black Rifle Coffee and their outdoor content. Basically, I kind of got started. I lucked into it, really. Honestly, I call myself a writer, but I'm definitely not at the level of a lot of writers out there. But I kind of came into Black Rifle Coffee and sent them some pitches for outdoor related articles like elk hunting fitness and the average man's approach to DIY elk hunting, kind of to give new guys some just points and kind of theories that I have about it, because I've found some success, and I'm probably intermediate elk hunter at best, but I've achieved above normal success rates. So
I think you can see it on the wall behind you there.
Yeah,
yeah,
there she is. But
there she is.
So above normal success rates, and so I pitched some stuff to some of their editors, and they took me on as a writer. As Black Rifle kind of has grown exponentially, they decided that they were going to move all of their outdoor adventure and gear related content over to a new website and keep Coffee or Die, which is the original publication. They're going to keep Coffee or Die, all news, media, current events, military, law enforcement, first responder, keep that all very centric to those areas. So they're getting ready to launch. By the time this podcast is out, they will have launched Free Range American, and that's where all the gear, adventure, and outdoor related content is going to live. So with the bringing on a new publication, Black Rifle Coffee had to hire a new editor, and I said it before to you. The reason that company's so successful is because they're so dang smart. I mean, they hired the perfect guy for the job. So they hired Michael Shea. He's an editor at large for Field and Stream, and he writes for a couple of other publications that I can't remember off the top of my head, but super good writer. And so far, I'm having a great time working with him. But when Mike came on, I got introduced to him, and they said, send all your pitches to Mike. So I wrote him a big, long email, and he quickly trashed a bunch of pitches. One of the pitches was a bino harness review of the new Sitka Mountain Optics harness. And he just, that harness alone in a standalone review. And he quickly came back and said, no, slow down, young bull. We don't do these. We don't do one-off reviews. He's like, we're going to review, if you're going to review a bino harness, you need to review all the bino harnesses you can get your hands on. So I got my hands on 10 bino harnesses. We're going to go over the top 5 today. And yeah, I put them to the test. And
yeah, so you did before. So here's the deal. I told Mike was going to come on. We were going to talk about all the 10 of the bino harnesses. And I said, why don't we do the top 5? Because I want people to go to Free Range American and check out Free Range American, and 2, read the entire review. Right. So we're leaving a little bit to be discovered by the listener or by the viewer if you're watching this on YouTube. With that being said, criteria, I think, and how you tested the bino harnesses. That's something that anytime I have a guest on that has done a review of some sort, that's one of the biggest questions that we get is, what tests did you put these things through? So before we get into those top 5 bino harnesses, let's talk about the criteria that you used to review them and how you reviewed them, just sort of the whole background on that review.
Yeah. So for grading criteria, first, I'll start by saying this. Bino harnesses are a super niche item. So the harness that won this test might not be somebody's favorite harness for whatever reason, because they might not like the way it opens. They might not like the shoulder straps or the buckles. So we picked fly shit out of chili, if you will, when we did this review. But to keep the test streamlined, the first thing we did is if the harnesses came in different sizes, we only used 10x42 binos, because that's the most common bino that hunters are carrying. I know some guys carry bigger objective lens binos with more zoom, but we wanted to keep it. It would have just got way too out of hand if we did a bunch of different size harnesses, bunch of different size binos. So we stuck to 10x42s, which put us for bino harness size. If it was a sized harness, we were generally in the company's smaller size. Then we went on the test criteria. We did comfort. So comfort was a combined score of wearing the harness throughout the day, but to really get a feel for comfort, we did a 1 mile hike in each harness on a farm in Kentucky in July. So it was super hot. So we definitely got a feel for the fit and function. We had packs on. I had a Faro pack on. Another guy was wearing a Mystery Ranch, and then 2 other guys were wearing their whitetail hunting pack. So we had different size packs, different weights in the pack, and so we got a pretty objective score for comfort that way. The other thing I probably should have said this in the beginning is my testers. So I grabbed 3 additional people to help me test. I had Eric Sissel help me test. He owns probably one of the few pro shops in the United States where he's one of the few guys I will let work on my bow. So he runs a pro shop here in Kentucky, and he is a phenomenal bow technician. This is his 24th archery season that we're going into. I had Tim Smoke help me out. He's been involved in the outdoor industry for a long time. He retired out of the military as an officer, but he's been a cameraman for a couple of shows. I think he filmed for Tim Sylvia, I want to say, when Tim Sylvia was doing a show. So he's an accomplished hunter, and he spends plenty of time in the field. And my final tester is a guy by the name of Robbie Amones. Robbie's a local legend. So Robbie he's killed 2 deer on Fort Knox that grossed over 200 inches. So 2 whitetail on public land that grossed over 200 inches. I know one of them was for sure with a bow, but this guy's coming up on his like 48th year of hunting. But I mean, he's killed over 50 Pope and Young whitetail. He's killed over 5 Boone and Crockett gross score whitetail. Like the guy's a whitetail killer. We did the test at his house, and you should see the deer just hanging up on the rafters in his garage that weren't big enough to make it. They're big enough to make it in my house, but they weren't big enough to make it in his house. So,
yeah, wow.
That was one big thing I wanted. I wanted experienced hunters, and I wanted well-rounded hunters. Some of these guys, Robbie's hunted out west. Eric is hunted out west. I don't know if Tim is hunted out west, but either way, there's a wealth of those guys have the hunting knowledge and know-how. So I didn't want, just to grab some brand new hunter and be like, come test these harnesses with me.
Yeah,
Not there's anything wrong with being a brand new hunter, but I wanted some wisdom and experience behind this test, right? So that's kind of how I selected my testers. So we talked about comfort. We tested shootability. So for shootability, we shot 3 to 5 arrows from the standing, kneeling, and seated position. Sometimes we sat in a chair. Some of the testers sat in a chair. Eric was not down with sitting in the chair, so he'd sit up against a tree just to get a real good feel for him. And then we fired rifles standing, kneeling, and prone, supported by a bipod, just to get a feel for, does this harness affect the shouldering of the rifle? Does it affect me drawing my bow? Is there anything about the harness that messes with the shootability? So comfort, shootability. Then we went on to functionality. Functionality, I think, was one of the big ones that we tested. We tested things like, do the pockets stay open, right? So if I want to if I'm sitting on a glass and knob, or I get up in my tree stand, if I want to keep my harness open so I can quickly get to my binos, do they stay open? Do they close unexpectedly, make noise? And then the big thing I tried to drive home for my testers was, think about at the time of the shot. Is there anything functionality wise that this bino harness is going to make or break you killing an animal? So functionality was tested throughout the day. It was tested while we shot. It was tested while we hiked, and it was tested during what we use for our durability test. So we did durability. Durability was somewhat objective, right? Because a bino harness isn't a load bearing item. So we didn't want to put it between two truck hitches and try to pull the bino harnesses apart. It's not really, you don't need to know at what tensile strength the harness breaks because it's not a load bearing item.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a 100-meter lane where we crawled, we ran, we jumped. And when we crawled hard on these suckers. Like the average hunter's probably not going to crawl as hard on the bino harnesses as we did. But so that was kind of where we got our durability. And then we looked at stuff like, are the buckles going to fail? Is the plastic feeling kind of cheap? Is there anything on the harness that looks like it's going to break, or is there a point of failure on it? And so, but that's how we tested durability. And the durability test also, that crawl portion, definitely the crawl, run, and jump portion definitely added some value to these guys figuring out the functionality as well. Because if you're crawling on a mule deer and you're stalking a mule deer and you're crawling and a harness comes open, that's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're let's see. So if you're crawling on a deer, the harness comes open, that's a problem. But if you're crawling and the harness makes an inordinate amount of noise, or maybe it rides lower on your belly, that's a problem. So, or it might not be a problem. That might be the way you like your harness. So we tried to get all that information we tried to capture all that information in that portion of the test.
And is that all written like in the article if something hangs lower? So when you did your review of particular bino harnesses, is that stated? So that, I guess if I'm saying, if somebody wants to buy a new bino harness and they go and they read your review, they're going to see like, okay, well, this one rides really high. This one rides really low.
Yeah, we wrote about
features.
it.
Okay, good.
Yep. So I wrote about that. Then we went on to modularity, right? And modularity was another kind of objective one. Modularity, we were looking at, so I'll give you an example. The Sitka Mountain Optics harness won modularity because it comes with the most pockets for the price, right? At 100, I think it's 149 bucks for the Sitka Mountain Optics harness. Yep, 149.99, and it's got those two side pouches, so it already has that. It has the pouches with it. You don't have to buy extra pouches. But we also scored them based on. I didn't ask the companies. I asked them if I told them they could send a rangefinder pouch if they wanted, but that we weren't testing it. So we didn't test the rangefinder pouches, and we didn't dock them points for whether or not they had rangefinder pouches with them. But we did go on each website and we looked at the different attachments and things you could attach and kind of rated a modularity score just to one, talk about, well, I want to carry a holster, or I want to have bear spray, or what can I attach to the harness? So we included modularity in there more. They got scored on modularity, but it's there more for a matter of fact, right? To inform the audience of, this is the harness. Now you can add this, this, and this to the harness for, something mission specific. After modularity, we also scored bino protection. So the bino protection, I didn't want to do something unrealistic, like stand on the top of a barn and toss a set of binos in a harness 30 feet to the ground. So for bino protection, we used mason jars, because if the harness can keep a mason jar from breaking, it can keep it's going to keep your rubber coated bino safe. I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I think so.
So we stuck a mason jar in each harness. We dropped it from chest height. We climbed up on a 10-foot step ladder, dropped it from 10 feet, and now we threw it down a steep hill just to kind of simulate, you're sitting on the side of a hill, you take your binos off, and they roll halfway down the mountain, right? Mm-hmm. None of the harnesses failed that. Not one mason jar broke or cracked. So all the harnesses did extremely well for bino protection. And then we tested weather protection as well. So for weather protection, it wasn't a rainy day. I was really hoping it was going to be a rainy day because then we'd really get a feel for weather protection. But my backup plan for weather protection was we're just going to blast these things with a hose. After we've crawled in them and they're all muddy and dirty, we want to clean them off anyways. So we gave each harness a 20-second blast with a hose. And then immediately after the blast, we opened the harness to check to see, one, was there water pooling inside of the harness, and two, were your binos still usable? Only two harnesses didn't do well on the weather protection test. It was FHF and the Leupold harness, because they're semi-enclosed, water got in the sides. And the binos were still usable, but the binos that we had the objective lens cover on. So if we wouldn't have had the objective lens cover, like I don't run my binos normally with objective lens covers on. If you were to run them with objective lens covers on, it might have taken a little bit of time if you're in inclement weather to get those binos up and into operation, because you might have had to clean them with a lens cloth. But we wanted to have that information in there. And then there was two harnesses that were sent with a rain fly. So for those harnesses, we first tested it with a rain fly, which was kind of a waste of time. We knew they were going to be fine with the rain fly attached. And then we tested them without the rain fly. And just to see how they did if you don't put the rain fly on. We did, if they, like one harness did not do well without the rain fly, but it came with the rain fly. We used the rain fly, so it still got 10 points for weather protection, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to be able to talk about, hey, if you don't use the rain fly that comes with it, it's probably your binos are probably gonna get wet. Or hey, without the rain fly, it still did well. I mean, I'd recommend using it. But we wanted to get a real, we just wanted to be able to talk about it intelligently. And the reason I wanted to do this article is because there's nowhere where you can go look at a bunch of bino harnesses and see objective feedback. Most of the bino harness reviews I've seen is what I initially proposed to my editor. It's a one-off. Hey, this is this harness I really like. There's tons of it. You can see guys, they're all over YouTube. They're written, but it's only one harness. So I wanted to pit as many harnesses as I could together and test them all. That's pretty much the basis of it. Oh, I left out service and support. So we did a service and support score. The service and support score was kind of a combo of, excuse me, it was a combo. The service and support score was a combo of, was it made in America and what kind of warranty did it have? So they got 10 points for that. If it was unlimited lifetime warranty and they were made in the USA, they got full points for that. So because that stuff's important to some guys. And again, that's where we picked fly shit out of Chile for sure. We nitpicked these harnesses. Not one harness was bad. There wasn't one harness where I was like, man, this is just junk. We wanted to nitpick it, and we wanted to test it in a way to where we could provide, like, if you read the article, you're like, all right, I'm looking for this kind of harness. You go through that article and you're like, all right, this is the harness. I will say we definitely didn't get some harnesses. I wanted to test the ADAC, and I think Black Ovis is the one that's kind of in cahoots with the gentleman that made it. And I called Black Ovis multiple times. I sent them emails and never got a response. So we didn't get the ADAC in there, and we didn't get, there was a few brands we didn't get in there, like Vortex. Vortex makes a harness. They have a harness, but it's made by Alaska Guide Creations. So we already had an Alaska Guide Creations harness in there. It's the exact same harness. It's slightly smaller dimensions, but it's essentially the same harness. So
right.
So if you're looking at buying the Vortex branded harness, you have that Alaska Guide Creations is the same harness. It's just a little bit smaller dimensions. It's a minuscule difference, because I have the Vortex harness. It's the first bino harness I ever bought. But yeah. So, and then the last thing with the test I'll say is I was kind of a Nazi, if you will. I was the test captain, and I was a little bit of a Nazi. At the end of the test, I wasn't sure some of these guys were still going to be my friend, because, I mean, it was hot. We were outside all day, sunburnt, tired. We hiked. My pedometer, I had over 11 miles after the hike. on my pedometer. So, I mean, we put some miles on. Everyone's hot, they're tired. But the one thing I put out in the beginning, none of my testers were allowed to talk about the harnesses. They weren't allowed to say, oh, I really like this, or this is awesome. I didn't allow any of the testers to talk about the harnesses until all the test sheets were handed in, and I started going through their test sheets. That's when we talked about the harnesses, and that's when we discussed, all right, I really like this, I really didn't like this. And that was one, because if I say, man, this harness is badass, you already have it, you have it in your mind that harness is awesome. So
Right.
or hey, I really love this. Like, I didn't want any of that in the test. I wanted the test to be 100% individual feedback, so the scores weren't swayed left, right, up, down. I wanted it, this is what Eric thinks about this harness, this is what Robbie thinks about this harness, this is what Mike thinks about this harness, this is what Tim thinks about this harness. So,
And did you swap out the harnesses between the people throughout the test?
every tester wore every harness for every test. So every
Okay.
tester walked
Okay,
a
good.
mile. Every tester walked a mile in each harness. Every tester shot in each harness. Every tester ran, jumped, and crawled in each harness. And then, I mean, the only things they didn't wear the harnesses for was the drop. They didn't wear it for the drop, and the weather protection test was the only things we didn't wear the harnesses for. For the weather protection test, we sat them in the grass upright, and the tester, the Robbie, who was the one that was running the hose, stood from the front of the harness and sprayed from the front and down. So, yeah, but they wore every single harness for
Good.
every single test. So each of them had a score sheet. So every harness has an individual score from every individual, except for the tests where it wasn't relevant for them to do that, like the Bino protection test where we dropped it, and the weather protection test.
Gotcha. Dang. All right. So that was very well thought out, and it sounds like it was executed really well too. You did a good job putting that all together. Now let's get to the good stuff.
Let's do it.
Number
So you
5.
want
So we're
you
going
want
to
to
go
start with number
backwards.
5?
We're
All
going to
right.
start with number 5. And we're going to work our way up to number 1.
So number 5 was FHF, the Pro Am Bino harness. So we had their small. Yep, we had their small. Everybody, so the things about this harness that immediately come to mind for pros is everybody really liked how high and tight that harness rode. So when we crawled, we crawled, and if the harness was rode lower, it definitely got dirt on it. The FHF, I don't think got dirt on it when any tester wore it. So that was a real positive. It rides really high and tight. The thing that hurt FHF the most was the side pockets. So they have mesh side pockets. They have mesh side pockets, and I think they normally ship a wind checker bottle in that mesh side pocket, because average size wind checker bottles don't fit. So that's what hurt that harness the most, was the wind checker pockets just weren't functional. You couldn't get stuff in and out. We tried sticking mouth calls in there, and it was just, you're reaching in there to this tiny little pocket with 2 fingers, your thumb and index finger, and you're trying to dig stuff out. It was a pain. And then you got different size wind checker bottles. So the smaller one fits, but a lot of guys run this. Like this is this is a more readily available one. I just buy one. It lasts me a couple years, and then I pick up another one. So and it's orange, so I don't lose it. But this one definitely isn't fitting in those pockets. So that was one thing that hurt it. Comfort on the FHF. It wasn't the most comfortable. They do sell padded straps for it. So, the padded straps help its modularity score, but I just wish some of these companies, instead of, like, if you have a Bino harness improvement, like, this is going to make my product better, why sell it as an extra? Like, add it to the overall cost of manufacturing it and sell it. You know what? Does that make sense?
It does. I think people are willing to pay the extra $20 or whatever to get something like that. I had that. I used to have that FHF harness, and I bought the shoulder pads because of that reason. And it's so wild that I don't have it here anymore. I got rid of it, but it's so wild what those pads will do, how much more comfortable that they will make that little shoulder strap. So I agree with you. I think that it should be included as part of it.
Yeah. I mean, if and I'm not a business owner, but if I own a business and I'm like, yes, I can make a superior product, I'm not going to sell it as an add-on if it's going to make my product better. So we would have liked to see padded straps, and some harnesses were pretty comfortable without the padded straps, but that was one where I think padded straps would have helped its comfort score.
Mm-hmm.
So it got, I mean, I scored it a 7 for comfort. One guy scored it an 8. Another guy scored it a 7, because this was Eric, he didn't like the way the straps rode under his arms. I think they have tri-glide sliders to keep it from moving. And that was another thing. I'll just be up front. The harnesses that had the auto locking buckles did way better. I mean, auto locking buckles, it's a simpler mechanism, and they just make it super easy for adjustment, on the fly adjustment, or just adjustment overall, and they stay in place. So
Right.
the harnesses with auto locking buckles did much better versus like the harness that has just a friction adapter type male female buckle, and then a tri-glide buckle to keep it from moving around. But yeah, so but it did good for the crawl. It stayed closed during the crawl. The testers liked the ability to adjust the hook and bungee opening. Another thing for functionality, this is one of those harnesses that doesn't stay open. It's a rear opening harness, so you open it towards your chest, and the forward opening harnesses generally did better, with the exception of Sitka, who included magnets, which we'll get into next. But overall it was a good harness. It was compact. The guys really liked how compact it was, and they really liked it for. I tried to have the guys, another thing as part of the test, I had the guys talk about what they would use that harness for ideally, right? If there's a specific situation. So this is a great harness for whitetail hunting or sitting in a blind, but it might not be a good harness for stalking mule deer or out west. This was one of those harnesses where it was definitely a better fit for Western hunting, aside from the pockets not fitting, because it was one of those harnesses. It was one of those, it rode high and tight. I mean, you would have to be crawling like a weirdo to be dragging that thing in the dirt and making noise with it. So,
Yep.
What do you have any other questions about this
No, I
harness?
just was looking. So one thing I see, so for the listeners, I'm looking at Mike's review right here as we're going through it. He has Razco holsters compatible on there. I think that's certainly, although Razco isn't like the only holster in the business, Razco is a very good holster, and its compatibility with Bino harnesses is really cool. I just wanted to kind of pitch that out there. I like Justin. I know Justin really well, and I like his holster system that he has.
So So I'll tell you about that too, because I put whether or not the harness was Rasco compatible or not, because he is, I would say he's kind of the holster guy, right? Like he is.
I think he is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he is I mean, and if there is a harness that it doesn't work with, and you call him and say, he'll probably custom make you something that'll fit that harness. So he is probably, I mean, out of the Bino harness compatible holsters, I think his holster, he fits the most, and he's willing to work with the customer the most to make it fit if it doesn't. So I'll put that on all the harnesses, whether or not they're Rasco holster compatible. And some companies sell their own, but like you said, most guys really like his harnesses. So
Yep.
I wanted to give Justin some love for sure, because he's a fellow veteran. Him and I met long before Rasco holsters was even a thing. So
he's an awesome guy. Definitely. So that's a good feature to have. And then I see made in the USA, limited lifetime warranty.
limited lifetime. So
So made in the USA, self-explanatory. Anything Pearl American is great. Talk about the limited warranty just briefly, and then we'll move on to.
So limited lifetime, right? So we put lifetime no fault, and then there's limited lifetime. Limited lifetime covers manufacturer defects, and that's it. So they're not going to cover anything else that happens to the harness, right? So there's and I'll be honest, once again, we picked fly shit out of Chile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a Bino harness is not, it's not a load bearing item. It's not a super high priced item for the most part. And I feel like like some of these companies say limited lifetime, but if you called FHF and you're like, hey, this broke, or I broke this, they're probably going to work with you to fix it. But a bino harness isn't meant to be a durable item, so I understand that. But I wanted to give bonus points for the companies that are 100% backing their product up. So,
and they do. I know FHF does. I used their warranty for a rangefinder pouch that was my fault. I broke it. It was my fault, and I called them and talked to them about it, and they hooked me up and squared me away. So
but
I think
they don't state it. So
they're not going to state it right. I think if you call them and you're whatever, just be upfront. Don't try to tell them some ridiculously crazy story that makes no sense. If you call them up front and you're honest up front, a lot of times that limited lifetime warranty will go a little bit further than just manufacturer defects.
Yeah, and again, like I said, we're picking fly shit out of chili. So for that warranty too, like at the end of the test, we laid out all the harnesses on a little field table I had out there, and I had I just copy pasted their warranties on a Word document, and I had a warranty laying under each harness, right? Yeah. So each tester sat down with their score sheets at the end of the test, and they read the warranty, and then they kind of went through the harness and just played with it. And even though they've been playing with it all day, they just went through and looked at all the different parts and got intimate with the harness just while they were filling out their final scores and writing their final remarks. Yeah. But so yeah, the warrant, again, we're picking fly shit out of chili, but that's important to some people. Like there's some companies like T&K who wasn't in the top 5, but he backs that harness up 100%. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
If you light it on fire and tell me I lit it on, tell him that it caught fire, he's going to replace your harness, you know? So, and then that's important to some people. So I wanted that information in there. And in today's day and age, I mean, made in America and the warranty it's an important thing it's a super important thing for some people. So
absolutely.
That's why it's in there.
Cool. All right. Number 4. Let's move on.
Number 4, Sitka Mountain Optics harness. So Sitka Mountain Optics harness kicked ass in the modularity realm. For the price, $149.99, so $150. For that price, you get the most bang for your buck. You get 2 utility pouches that you could stick a rangefinder in, GPS, calls. I mean, you get
snacks.
Oh,
I love snacks.
Yeah. Snacks for sure. So that it was the overall winner for modularity. I want to say, I'm looking at the article. So it kicked butt for modularity. And it was kind of, I'm pretty sure it was designed like this. I didn't talk to the designer, but I'm pretty sure it was designed like that. It's kind of it's a one size fits all harness. One thing we really liked about it being one size fits all is it has 2 connections on the chest. So if you look at the front of the harness, it's a rear opening harness with a bungee system, similar to a lot of the rear opening harnesses, but it has 2 slots. So if you have a bigger set of binos, you can go up to that second clasp to lock your harnesses in, or if you're running smaller binos, you can go down. It did well with 10x42s in it with no like slop or bino wobble. I have a feeling if we would have went down to like 8x42s, they would have been a little wobbly in there. But a lot of guys, I mean, if you're carrying 8x42s, do you really need to wear a bino harness at that point? I think 10x42 is kind of the starting point for bino harnesses anyway. So we didn't hit them up for that. We ran with 10x42s and I already beat that to death. But so we got pros and cons. So the major pro from this harness was it had the most storage. For the price, it came with the most storage. Con is the way the harness is designed. It's kind of a cummerbund. It rides, I don't know if you got a lot of military guys listening, but it rides like the old school X harness chest rigs that we all used to run. And so that covers a significant amount of your torso compared to, a more compact bino harness here in the front. You have a harness that's kind of going around your torso. So it was hotter. It did run hotter. Like the testers were noticeably hotter when they had to wear the harness for the hike. They were noticeably hotter when they were wearing it for the crawl. The X-strap design wasn't bad, but the width of the straps, they did ride up on your neck a little bit, and the width of the straps, they were a little bit smaller than what I liked, and they're not padded straps. The other thing I will say with that, even though Sitka markets it as a big game hunting, Western big game kind of bino harness. The other thing I will say with the X style strap is if you're a whitetail hunter and you're wearing bulky clothing, it's probably going to be a little bit tougher to get on. Your straps are going to get twisted around. I mean, we weren't wearing bulky clothing, and it still took a little bit of extra time to put it on. With the comfort and kind of function of the straps too, while we're on that topic, even without bulky clothing on, it was kind of a pain to put on. And for anyone that's ever worn like an X harness style where the straps are crisscrossed in the back, it's harder to, most bino harnesses like the one I have here, you unclip one side, right? This is a Y style strap on the marsupial. You unclip one side, put one arm through, and then you put your head through, and then you clip the bottom one. It's a little bit harder to do that with the Sitka because it is an X style strap, so you lose that load bearing and it's hanging off one buckle, if that makes sense. So if you're doing it with an X style strap in the Sitka, it's kind of hanging like that. So that was kind of a pain with the Sitka. And it lost a little bit of function points for that just because you got to put it on like a t-shirt. So you got to kind of put your arms up and through it and pull it over your head, which is when I'm hot and tired and I've been hiking and I want to take the harness off, I don't want to have to deal with that. And I mean, I've done it so many times in the military, and as soon as I think Tactical Tailor was the first company that came out with, instead of an X style, they had more of a Y style shoulder strap. I bought that right away because those X style straps are just a pain in the neck. But it wasn't terrible for comfort. Let's see. So it was hotter. So early season, it's going to be a little bit warmer of a harness. I mean, especially if you're wearing a backpack, right? You got a pack covering your entire back, and then you have a harness covering a bunch of your torso. You're going to be hot.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
Is it a mesh type? The cummerbund, is it made of mesh so it
Yeah,
breathes?
it's got a mesh like breathable back, but you're still covering. I mean,
If you got pouches and everything on it, it's still covered
yeah,
up.
even if you take the pouches off, you still have that rigid cummerbund there, so it's still going to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep,
So if you remove those pouches, there's a back panel, and they've got Molle type webbing on it, and it's still
Oh, I see it. I'm looking at it on their website.
Yeah, you could take those pouches off, but it's still covering your torso because of that back panel. So I don't think adding or removing pouches is going to make it any less hot or any more comfortable.
Gotcha.
As far as heat goes and covering your body.
Gotcha. Modularity. That's where that thing is the winner. You can carry a lot of stuff in that Sitka pouch, it looks like.
You can, and if you have Molle adaptable pouches, so they come with their pouches, which I liked. I like the way the pouches attach to the system, right? And again, we pick fly shit out of Chile. That's like the fifth time I've said it, but the plastic adapter is super easy to take those pouches on and off and lock them into place. But so if you want to remove one of those GPS/rangefinder pouches and put a bear spray pouch on there, and you already own one from another company and it's Molle compatible, it's super easy to attach it to.
Yeah,
So
good.
you can really mission tailor that harness. And the other thing, so while the cummerbund does make you hot, it does make attaching some of those pouches a lot better because it's a rigid design, right? That cummerbund is there. So even though it's maybe getting some discomfort in the early season, it holds a lot better. Some harnesses, and again, we didn't gig them for it, but the way that you attach like a rangefinder pouch is it just hangs on that side strap, which is super sloppy. You don't have that with the Sitka. There's no slop.
Okay.
You Molle that thing onto the panel back there, the cummerbund, if you will, and it's there. So overall, I really like the design of it. I would have liked to see like a Y style strap, but I understand why they did the X, and I'm not sure if I think John Barklow probably had something to do with it and taking his military experience and creating it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this is a chest rig.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
It's a chest rig, and it's not a bad design, load bearing. I mean, we only carried 10x42s, but it wasn't terrible. The other super cool thing with the Sitka is out of the rear opening harnesses, so the harnesses that open towards your chest, they had magnets. So the lid's kind of made into two folds. It has the fold that bends over to hook down on the front, and then the top part of the lid is another like rigid material that folds up. So there's a magnet in that to fold that little flap. It magnets to itself, and then it magnets up against the straps, so it stays open. That was a pretty dang cool feature. Most of the other forward opening harnesses, the best you could do is tuck the top flap into the harness.
Right.
If depending on the situation you're in, that top flap immediately negates any quiet material that you have inside the harness. So a lot of them are made out of Cordura. So if you're trying to be quiet and use binos, and you want to keep it open for one-handed ease of use, if you got that top flap tucked in, you're going to get a little extra noise because that top flap's covering the felt or whatever quiet material they used on the inside of the harness.
Gotcha. Very good. Okay. Just quickly, not made in the USA.
Not made in the USA.
And then it has a limited warranty.
Limited lifetime, which I've heard. I've never used Sitka's warranty, and I'm a big Sitka fan.
Yeah, me too. And I've never had to use their warranty either. That's part of the reason why I'm their fan.
I've heard guys that have used their warranty, and Sitka, again, they generally will take care of you from the looks of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't, and I contemplated for this test kind of trying to call the companies and trying to kind of do like a warranty test and customer service and kind of add that in there. But man, this thing consumed the entire month of July and my first week of August, and elk season's right around the corner, and I am not ready because I've put all my time and effort into this test. But so there is that. And if I were to call a company and try to kind of gauge them, you don't know if the dude's having a bad day.
Yeah,
might not have had his coffee yet. So that's a super hard one to do. But I did think about doing it because I did kind of want to get a little customer service action and see what they would support and what they wouldn't support.
I'll tell you this before we move on, is I talk to a lot of people, right? I have that luxury of having this podcast and being able to talk to a lot of people, and I've called a lot of companies, and most companies in the outdoor industry are willing to hear you out when it comes to warranty, or they're willing to talk or willing to listen for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's what you'll find across the board. There's a few of them out there that have not been very cooperative, but most of them in general, I think are pretty good. So let's move. Oh, not Rasco compatible, but Sitka makes a harness or a holster. Do they make a holster for it?
I'd have to look that up.
Yeah,
I don't know if they do. I looked because one of their marketing videos shows a bear spray holster.
Mm-hmm.
So I just when we were on there looking for modularity, I didn't see that bear spray holster. I went back and looked at the video after we kind of graded modularity, and the bear spray holster was a Mystery Ranch bear spray holster, just in their subalpine pattern. So
got it. Okay.
I'm sure
basically though anything Molle would.
Yeah, you could probably
put it on there
attach a Molle holster to your right side, but it wasn't Rasco compatible. I don't know if Justin's got a plan for that harness or what his plan is, but
okay.
Yeah. So
all right, moving on. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3, Leupold. So the Leupold Pro Guide Bino harness. Right off the front, it's made in the USA, limited lifetime warranty, semi-enclosed harness. So this harness was pretty dang comfortable for what it is. It didn't have padded shoulder straps, and after I received the harness, I realized that this is a kind of what's the word for it? It's a
rebranded, I guess.
It's rebranded. So Marsupial Gear is the manufacturer of this harness. And I'll just put it out there right up front, right? I'm a big fan of Leupold optics. I've been using them in the military my entire career. I think they're a great company, but you can get a similar harness from Marsupial. So the price on this harness is $159.99. So it was the most expensive harness in the test. you can get a similar harness from Marsupial for around 90 bucks. So
Yeah,
that,
gotcha.
take that for what it is. It's kind of my job to be objective, and if I know that information, I can't keep it close hold. But again, I'm a big fan of Leupold, and it's a good looking harness if you're a fan of Leupold. I mean, it's branded. I've got it right here, so it's branded on the outside, and then when you flip that sucker over, you got the Leupold L and the gold ring. So the other thing about this harness, and I can't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure that they worked with Jim at Marsupial, and this harness is specifically designed. It'll fit all kinds of binos. We had Vortex, we had Bushnell, we had Maven, and we had Leupold binos. But this harness is specifically designed to fit all of their optics, with the exception of the BX5 Santum HDs, the 15 to 56s. So it fits all of their optics except for the big gun. And so let's be honest, some people are diehard Leupold fans, and they're going to want that harness just because it's a Leupold harness. And it was a good harness. Came in number 3. Durability, super durable. It feels like a Cordura material on the front. They got really high marks for how high and tight it rode. And again, this is I think, yeah, this out of the harnesses we're starting to get into. You'll notice with the top 3 harnesses, all the top 3 have auto lock and buckles. They have this male female auto locker here, and this is one big thing that it just makes a world of difference, because if I want to adjust my harness, I press that down, I pull it out, and it's not going anywhere. And then if I want to tighten it up, same thing. And so it's got auto lock and buckles on the top, and it has auto lock and buckles on the side. And you'll notice that with the top 3. I don't think there's no better way to do it. Those auto locking buckles are smaller. They're small enough. They're just super functional, and all the top 3 harnesses had them. I mean, and that's something that the top 3 have in common is auto lock and buckle. I mean, they just work. I can't say enough good things.
It is a good.
I'm a huge fan. The testers were a huge fan. Like, I can't say enough good thing about having they're simple and they're effective, and they're small enough that they're not getting in the way, but they're big enough that you can use them with one hand even if it's freaking cold out. So the harness overall comfort wasn't terrible. We would have loved to see shoulder straps again for 159 bucks. Can you give us some padded shoulder straps? Come on, Leupold, hook it up.
Yeah, for that much money, you should, and perhaps a rangefinder pouch or something to go with it. So here's a question. I don't know if you know it or not. I'm on the website right now trying to find it. If you buy a pair of Leupold binos, does it come with that harness?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, just like Vortex, if you buy a pair of Vortex, they come with their
well, they come with a bino harness, but it isn't.
It's their cheaper. It's their like cheaper nylon strap. Not Leupold has a harness like that, and I wanted to keep those harnesses out of the test because I'm just being real. They're not well built. They do the job, right? They'll do the job, but they're not well built harnesses. So this test was specifically for the higher end. Purpose-built harnesses instead of I just didn't want to include the freebie harnesses that come with a set of glass.
Yeah, gotcha.
So I don't think they're going to ship. I do not think that harness is going to ship with binos. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll follow up a Leupold after, but so that was one bit. So going back to the Leupold Pro Guide, big thing for the price, we would have loved to see padded shoulder straps. For function, the stretch side pockets they're great, and I can fit my wind checker in them. But if you're putting a mouth call in this stretch side pocket, again, this is one of those pockets where you only got 2 fingers. It's just kind of harder to dig stuff out of there. The other thing that kind of hinders the function of this stretch side pocket is this Molle attachment for attaching whatever extra pouches you want. For those of you guys that are listening and not looking at the video, there is one piece of 1-inch Molle webbing that is sewn over the center of the stretch side pocket. So the stretch side pocket really only stretches as far as that Molle webbing goes. So that kind of hinders the functionality of that stretch side pocket. But if you're buying, and I'm not sure why Marsupial designed it that way, because their Bino harness actually goes into this piece of webbing right here. It attaches to the piece of webbing on the side where the torso strap goes. So
yeah.
I'm not sure why Jim put those there, but I definitely, because they leave enough room in this side pouch, in this little side attachment to attach your Bino harness, and that keeps, or not your Bino harness, your rangefinder pouch, and that keeps the rangefinder pouch from being saggy or floppy, because I have the Marsupial with it. I think that maybe if you just got rid of those Molle webbing attachments, it would be a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that pocket would be it would be able to stretch a little bit further. It'd be a little bit easier to get in and out of. But again, we're picking fly shit out of chili.
Yeah. Yeah. Tiny things. Okay.
The weather protection test, this harness did the worst. This harness was also one of the few harnesses that it got some dirt in it when we crawled. For weather protection, the sides are just, I mean, if you look at the sides on this sucker, they're open. I mean, they are.
Yeah, it's wide open.
You know, they're wide open. But the overall function of the harness is great. Like, one big thing with this design that we really like is the fact that the front pouch magnets to the bottom. So this sucker stays open for one-handed usability. And again, with my complaints with a lot of the forward opening harnesses, this negates that binos rubbing on Cordura. If you're using your binos, you're in the tree stand or you're up on the glass and knob, you want to keep this sucker open, your binos are rubbing on that. They're only coming into contact with that fleece line.
Yeah.
Fleece lining.
Super quiet.
Super quiet. The other thing I will put out there though is you got to be kind of careful when you're closing it. This sucker is loud. So if you just let it go.
You kind of, it's one of those things, I think, when you use it more. I'm sorry for I'm not really holding mine up. For the people watching this, if you're seeing me goofing around with something, I've got the Marsupial version of that.
Just Bino harness goofing. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, right. Similar to boot goofing, just a little different. And I'm playing with mine too. And I've learned that when I carry this, when I close that thing, it's sort of just a gentle little close it, and it's quiet.
Yeah,
I'm closing it right now, right in my microphone, and you can keep it pretty darn quiet. So, but if you forget
you can,
and you throw it, it's gonna pop.
If you're excited and a deer's in front of you, yeah. So that's something to note. I don't think any of the testers docked points for it, but it is loud if you just let her fly. Yeah. But overall, again, the Y strap design and those auto locking buckles.
Yeah, gotcha.
If you're a Bino harness manufacturer, just go ahead and do all auto locking buckles. Please.
And shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Made in the USA, limited warranty.
Limited lifetime.
RASCO compatible.
Because it's essentially the Gen 1 Marsupial is what it is. But again, it's Leupold's rendition, so it's designed to fit their binos. It does work with, we use 10x42, the Vortex, Viper HDs. We used whatever the most expensive pair of Bushnells that are out there we used, and we used Maven, so we used the big four for America. We used Vortex, Leupold, Maven, and Bushnell, if you consider Bushnell some of the big four. But yeah, so that horse has been beat to death.
Gotcha. Let's go number 2.
Number 2. So I'll be completely upfront with number 2. I really didn't want number 2 to be the best buy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the number 2, the harness that came in second place for the review. I wanted, number 10 to be the best buy. I really wanted number 10 to be the best buy. And I hadn't done the math. So when we all sat down and I got score sheets collected up, I said, what is the best harness for the value? What which one is the best for the value? Like, which one is the most bang for your buck? And unanimously, all the testers said Alaska Guide Creations. It was unanimous. Like, everybody loved the AGC harness.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Best Buy goes, there was things about the harness people didn't like, but as far as Best Buy, like, I didn't want it to be that way. And then I got home, I computed all the scores, and I was like, God dang it, the Best Buy is number 2. Like, so
Well,
we're
for
not.
$99, dude,
Yeah,
you're getting a lot of features for
and
$99.
yeah, you are, and we're not. I really wanted to give an underdog but again, this is objective, right? I didn't even do the math on the scores, so I didn't know that Alaska Guide Creations was going to shake out as number 2. Because had I known that, I probably would have prodded those guys to pick a different harness. But again, so we were objective in this test.
Mm-hmm.
But for Alaska Guide Creations, it's made in the USA, lifetime, no fault, repair, replace warranty. It's fully enclosed, Rasco compatible. It's got the essentials for $100. For
Mm-hmm.
$99.99, the Kodiak Cub is the one we tested. So it's designed more
I
for
think that's probably their most popular
yeah.
harness
Oh
that
yeah.
they sell.
But it is the best value. It's specifically designed to fit 8x42 or 10x42s. And they obviously, AGC makes different harnesses. They don't have a sizing system. They have different names for their Bino packs. But for what it is, so we'll kind of blow through Alaska Guide Creations. They're number 2, Best Buy. For what it is, you can store your binos, and you have that front pouch. You can fit most rangefinders. You can fit, so right there, you don't have to buy any additional stuff, though they sell additional stuff to go with it. I mean, that's what sold it for the testers. And again, say it again, they have auto lock and buckles.
Yep.
Those auto lock and buckles make fit and adjustment super easy. So let's talk about where Alaska Guide Creations didn't do so hot, because they're the Best Buy. Well-built harness. Comfort wasn't terrible, but because of the width of those shoulder straps, they ride on your neck. I knew they were going to. I didn't say anything to the testers, but they do come up and touch your neck a little bit. They do get on your neck. I'd like to see them slim those down a little bit while keeping them padded. But they do ride up on your neck a little as far as comfort goes. And then the thing that hurt them the most was functionality. And I mean, it didn't hurt them terribly, but functionality. So this harness doesn't stay open. It's a forward opening harness. And even though it's fully enclosed, and I'm pretty sure you could throw your binos off a cliff with these suckers and you're probably not going to break,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't stay open. It's a bungee rear opening harness, but you can't tuck that lid in. You can't do anything to keep the sucker open. So that is kind of a pain for one-handed use. The side pockets. They're like a diagonal zipper side pocket on them. They are not super functional. If I was AGC, I'd like to see them get rid of those diagonal zipper side pockets.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that about that.
They're not super functional. They're hard to put stuff in. And I've elk hunted the last 2-3 years. That's the harness I've hunted in for the last 2-3 years, is the Vortex version of this. And I mean, I have a hard time digging mouse calls out. Again, it's one of those harnesses, you unzip the side and you can only get 2 fingers in there. So it's hard. And then putting a wind checker bottle in there or something, not so great. So
Yeah.
It definitely lost function points for that. It lost function points for that, but it is modular. They do have a bunch of attachments. It is Rasco holsters compatible. The weather protection test, the harness did fine, and I don't know if manufacturers recommend it, but I am going to spray the harnesses that I do have. I'm going to spray them all down with Nike Wax just to kind of add to whatever DWR coating that they have.
Yeah.
But this harness did fine because the lid closes over the top of the harness, so there's no way water's getting in it. We didn't test the rangefinder pouch with the zipper. We weren't testing rangefinders. We were testing one-handed usability. So,
Yeah.
And we were trying to stay bino specific. Let's see. So it didn't do, so the zipper pockets were the the major blow to it. I'm trying to pick
I
some
think that's
stuff
pretty
out.
good. That
Yeah.
it's a heck
That
of a good harness. It's been around for a long time, and I think we beat it up pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most bang for your buck,
Yeah.
really. $99. If you're new to hunting or you're not wanting to drop a bunch of money on a harness, it's the most bang for your buck. You're getting
Yep.
auto locking buckles. You have a spot to hold your rangefinder on the front. The elastic that you use to adjust the bungee, you can actually use as a tether for your rangefinder. For mine, I've just bought an additional tether that I hook up on the shoulder strap, but it's a great harness. The side pockets suck, but other than the side pockets, it's a great harness. Yeah, so definitely the most bang for your buck, and it came in number 2. I mean,
Number 2. All right, you ready?
easy.
Number 1.
All right, number 1 is the new marsupial. Man, this harness is, I love it. And I'll just be up front. Jim, the owner, sent me one for the test. And after the test, I just let all the testers pick. The only harness I kept was the Leopold one because I'm going to do some photography for him. But I let my testers take. So there was 3 testers besides me. I let them take 3 Bino harnesses, and that was the first one to get snatched up.
Yeah.
And again, I hadn't computed all the scores, but I kind of knew it won because I could see the look on their faces when the first tester, I wrote a number on the back of a piece of paper. Everyone guessed a number. The guy that was closest got to draw first, and then the other 2 guessed a number. So I worked the order out that way because I wasn't snatching any harnesses out of the pool. And this was the first one to get snatched up.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot say enough good things about this harness. And really what it comes down to, what separates this harness from the rest of them in the top 3 is fully enclosed, forward opening, and padded shoulder straps, because the top 3 all have auto locking buckles. So that's really the big separator. And the price isn't bad. $124.95 for the price, made in the USA, limited lifetime warranty. But I have a feeling that Jim, I haven't talked to him about it, but I have a feeling that he's probably going to be, just like we already said, most of these companies, even though they might have lost a little bit of points for not having a full-on no fault repair replace warranty, I think that he probably will be pretty customer friendly, because pretty much everybody, all the small businesses in the hunting industry, you kind of have to be, or you're not gonna survive. But so the big con of this one is, and I'm not a scientist, but I feel like, this is our personal opinion, the testers, is this kind of stretchy, softer, it's a quieter material. I mean, it's not as loud as Cordura, but I feel like this material is probably going to take on water a little bit better. And when you and I were talking offline, I am definitely going to, this is one I'm going to coat this with some DWR to kind of help bolster it. I think that they could probably fit a rain fly somewhere in here if they wanted to in the future, but we're picking fly shit out of Chile again. But overall, I mean, the padded shoulder straps were the most comfortable shoulder straps. And I think that what kind of separates these guys from the competition is, if you look at the way this shoulder strap, the webbing for the shoulder strap is sewn on, it's sewn on at an angle, right? So that kind of helps keep that shoulder strap off from your neck. So it's already kind of riding center of the shoulders versus having the ability to ride up onto the shoulders. The Leopold's sewn on like that too, but
yeah, that's what I was looking at, the old model marsupial. Basically, you get all of the function of what we talked about with the Leopold harness, or the old marsupial, which however you want to take it, except you're fully enclosed, and now you got shoulder straps,
padded shoulder straps,
and a quieter material. I think it sounds to me like marsupial made listener or user feedback and probably made a more functional harness. So
I mean, yeah, they took user feedback and they knocked it out of the freaking park. Like, again, and yeah, it is basically, it's, the Leupold is the Gen 1 marsupial. But I just, this harness for comfort, like it killed it on comfort. I gotta dig through these papers to find it, but killed it on comfort. It killed it on pretty much everything. It knocked a lot of stuff out of the park. The only thing that it really got hit up hard for was the only thing it got hit up hard for was
Looking at your review here, it says the only thing you really complained, or not complained, but was if it wasn't a heavy downpour, you think that would take on a little bit extra water.
yeah, because it just feels like a more Cordura is not as porous as whatever this stretch material. It just feels more porous. But again, I'm gonna blast it with some Nike Wax, and we'll see how she rides when I'm out west. But yeah, this harness, man, it is super comfortable. And then the modularity too, right? So you can attach, like we talked about. I'm not sure what the thought was in putting that piece of Molle over the side pouch, because this rides pretty dang good attached to this where your buckle is attached, that piece of webbing that attaches.
You're talking about on the Gen 1, because this new one doesn't have that little extra piece of Molle.
The new one doesn't have the extra piece of Molle, but so where the female adapter of the torso buckle is, you just slide that piece of Molle through to attach the rangefinder pouch, and it's not sloppy when you're wearing it. So I'm not sure what the thought was putting that on the Gen 1 with the 1-inch Molle going over this pocket. The other thing I'll say about this harness is it stays open. It maintains its shape really well. So again, for one-handed usability, because of it's open right now, that shape it's a rigid shape. So it's maintaining its shape, which makes it super easy to get your binos in and out, because some harnesses don't have a rigid shape. That was one thing. We're not talking about the Kuiu. They were down at like number 6 or 7, but the Kuiu harness has a piece of wire in it right here, a piece of wire in it around the front of the harness. So it's a moldable wire. So you can actually make it fit your binos a little bit better, so they kind of go in and out easier, which is something I really liked. And if they wanted to improve upon this design, that would probably be the one of the things I would say, and then maybe throw a rainfly in there, and you've got what I think is the ultimate harness. The other thing new for this one is it has Molle webbing on the bottom. So if you want to throw a bear spray holster or some kind of whatever on the bottom, that's pretty nice too. And then it is Rasco holsters compatible. But yeah, man, this harness, and like I said, my testers took that harness first. One of the testers that won the number draw was the closest. He ended up yanking that harness up first. So I was like, Jim,
want to sell it?
I gotta buy a harness.
Yeah.
And I grabbed one. I picked one up. He gave me a little bit of a discount, but it was good enough that I spent my own money on it after the fact, even though I had 10 free Bino harnesses originally to start with. I love it. I'm buying one. Well, by the time this thing goes out, I will probably already have one ordered. I was pretty impressed with that Gen 1, and they came out with this Gen 2. I would have already ordered one, but I'm waiting on the medium size for my UHD. What color are you waiting for? You're bougie. Waiting for colors.
He said on, so we're recording this on a Thursday. He said tomorrow he's going to be releasing the foliage green and the multicam. I'll probably get the green. I don't care, honestly.
So the foliage green is a little bit less green than the Ranger green.
Yeah.
So you're tracking.
Almost a grayish.
Yeah, it is.
Whichever one has a matching rangefinder pouch.
I'm a big fan. Now we're talking about color, but I'm a big fan of the Ranger green. I like that color. It's a nice, solid, deep color.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. We'll see what I get. I have Coyote Brown for the other one, for the old school one. I always like Coyote, but we'll see what I get. Whatever's in stock, to be honest with you. I've been waiting since they dropped this about a month ago. I've been waiting for it in medium ever since. So
yeah, that's the big hookup I got. Is I was like, hey, can I get I think I'm actually going to buy a small just because the medium is a little bit wider on the body, a little bit taller on the body, covers more of my torso, and I'm only running 10 by 42s. But I wanted to get the medium just to check it out, and
Mm-hmm.
because once I move back out west, I'm going to buy bigger, more powerful binos. So,
Yeah.
but the small, man, it's super compact. It rides good. Oh gosh, it's a nice harness.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
But let's see. That's about it, man. That marsupial knocked it out of the park. And again, for 124 bucks, you're getting padded shoulder straps, auto lock and buckles, fully enclosed design, and that was the big flaw with that kind of took the Leupold down a couple notches, was not fully enclosed and no padded shoulder straps. So, and yeah, I mean,
Cool.
I can't say enough good things about it.
Cool. Cool. Well, let me wrap this thing up here. Go check out the article. It'll be linked in the description below. Read the rest. All of these things. I really think a lot of people could pick different harnesses based on their needs and their wants of that particular harness. I think reading through the article, I think Mike did an awesome job. His team did an awesome job of reviewing all of these harnesses. We did the top 5. There's a bunch more in there. I invite everybody to check out that link. The other thing I think I learned today is Mike Herne loves picking fly shit out of Chile. I
I
think
do. I
it's
do.
a lot
Well,
of fun. I agree with you. It's a lot of fun.
I didn't do it like I didn't do it for myself. You know what I mean? I did it, and that's what we wanted the article to be. So we don't drag any of these companies through the dirt, but we did want to find out, you know, is there a point of failure, or we wanted to just have objective information in one spot about as many products as we could get. And I think that's what you're going to see from Free Range American going forward is just like I was going to, perfect example, right? I was going to, I don't know if I should talk about that. Probably have to edit that out. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'll tell
All
you
right.
offline.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair enough.
but uh, objective feedback, and just no bull crap, no influence, not sponsored by anybody. The companies did send the harnesses for free, and we really appreciate them sending them, and I had to pay my testers for their time, like Eric. um, him spending an entire Saturday with me is a big deal, because if he's not running a tractor planting, you know, bean fields and farming, he's got a line of people standing in his pro shop waiting to get their bows serviced, and he's a one-man show out there. So um, and we're right on the cusp of hunting season. So for him to
Yeah.
come out for a Saturday, I had to give him something for their time. So it was cool that everyone sent those harnesses for free and didn't want us to return them to them. Another harness to keep on the lookout for, Stone Glacier's coming out with one, and I tried to get it, and
Mm-hmm.
they were going to send it, but it was still prototype mode, and they had some stuff they wanted to change. But I really would have liked to get my hands on that one and test it out, but it wasn't at the point where they were willing to throw it in the pool with everyone else, because they were making some functionality changes with it. So
Yeah. That thing does look pretty sharp. I've had my eye on that one too. Well, Mike, where can everybody find your articles? Where can they find you? All of that good stuff.
they can find my articles at freerangeamerican.com. I want to say the website's not up yet right now, but freerangeamerican.com. Follow Free Range American on Instagram, and they can find me on Instagram. My handle is just Mike Herne. Super exciting and fancy. So
Inviting. Yeah,
yeah,
all that. I'll put all that stuff in the links. Free Range American has their podcast stuff is on the Black Rifle Coffee Company website, but I'm not finding any .com.
you're not, yeah. So you can, I think it's freerangeamerican.us is that the website, but once the website is up and running, it should be just free range. I think freerangeamerican.com will take you to it. And it should be where the podcast lives now is going to be let me check it out. Where the podcast lives right now on that its own website, Free Range American. Um, that's where all the articles are going to live as well.
Okay.
So, and it's going to
Very good.
cover, I mean, they're going to cover, yeah, it's freerangeamerican.us, but they're going to cover everything, right? So I'm going to be heavy into the gear side, but they're going to cover, you know, outdoor related content, best places to go hike in, just adventure stuff. Once I get back out to Colorado, I'll probably be a lot more heavily involved with it. And I'm an independent contractor. So if you want me to write an article for you, hit me up on the IG. But I'm an independent contractor just because I'm active duty military and I can't take on a full-time job with Black Rifle. And I'm new to the whole writing thing. I just kind of got into it because I like it. I like testing gear and I like providing objective feedback like we're doing with this article.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you for a fact that being in the Western states really helps a lot.
Oh yeah.
Since I moved out here from Texas, it's night and day difference. Just with the podcast and everything, and it's incredible being out here.
Photography's better out there. You can do better photography. I think I'm going to be able to do better reviews. I will have I think it'll kind of go more Western. It'll be obviously more Western hunting centric versus, whitetail and Eastern hunting centric. But I just think I'm going to have a lot better. I'm going to have a bigger pool of testers out there. I know a lot of really experienced hunters, guys like Snyder. If I can get him to spend a day with me and test some gear, like have him testing gear, which would be phenomenal, right? Because you're going to get some good feedback from that. Yep. But I'm ready to get back out there. And that way we can link up too and
definitely
do some new boot goofing. We'll do some Bino harness goofing.
Definitely, dude.
Some hike goofing. So
there'll be a bunch of stuff going on.
It'll be fun.
Right.
Well, I really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, dude. Good conversation. And go check out this article on Free Range American. All right, out of here, Mike.
Later.
All right, cool, man.